We can go on both sides. We can go on both sides. How you doing? Thanks for being here. Nice looking camera. Yeah. You know who had us make sure that we bought all the right cameras was Lindsay. When Lindsay was with us. Yeah. She's working on the online. She was like, okay, we have to have good. Good afternoon. Nice to see everybody that's here with us on site here at the University of Oregon, here in Portland, Oregon. Also like to welcome our YouTube channel that's here with us today and everybody joining us here on Zoom. I'm Dr. Ellen Schmidt-Devlin, the Executive Director and co-founder of the Sports Product Management Program that all of you are in. And when we look at the word product and we look at the innovation lab that you all just were in, right? Is that oftentimes when we think about product, we think about something physical, something you're going to wear, something you're going to make to wear. The future is beyond that, way beyond that. And today we're going to be introduced to how the companies here in Portland and around the world are seeing product as a physical piece, but also product as a digital tool. And you will see this kind of throughout the product development process, throughout the merchandising, marketing, and selling of products, and also the use of products. And so I am beyond excited to have traveled here from all the way from Italy, and to have Franz with us today to tell us a little bit more about Covision Media and the company that he has, and then get ready to ask some questions. This is a space that we all can learn in. So ladies and gentlemen, Franz.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You can all hear me all right? Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here, to meet you all. Not too long ago, I was also an economics business student, mostly based out of Europe, and then spent some time in San Francisco working in, let's say, the field of technology, mostly computer vision, machine learning, so making sense out of images, 3D, 2D. That's kind of the field we're coming from, which is a sub-segment of artificial intelligence. And we leverage that to, also build products like Covision Media, which is essentially a 3D scanner that is taking a physical object of any kind. Could be a shoe. You will see lots of shoes today because, of course, there's some need right now in the industry. That's also the reason why I'm in Portland, but it can really be anything. And to bridge that gap, both for, let's say, product development, like to go from 3D to 2D, from 2D to 3D, and then again, back again. We see a fluid shift there already for some time in the industry, and we have launched something that is quite appealing for many companies out there, and hopefully for you as well. So one thing I don't want to do, I just don't want to do a speech about the product and how great we are and how cool we are. That's more for the sales meetings that I do, but there will be some aspects where I will also show you what we are all about, because at the end of the day, we're close to 20 people company. It's not that we are some segment of some larger company. We got started about 3 years ago in the very north of Italy, and then also expanded to the US rather quickly, since it's an important market. But we have been mostly working also with the companies based out of Germany and Italy, especially in the sportswear, footwear industry. So just to clear up again some terminology, AI, when you see that, always for artificial intelligence, I mean, it goes without saying. CV stands for computer vision, making sense out of images, and machine learning is nothing else than just a terminology that's more correct for anything that's going on in AI. And just as a backgrounder, where we come from, so we actually founded a company in the north of Italy with some industrial, multi-million, multi-billion dollar companies that you have never heard of, likely, from the most various industries. So, I don't know, Durst, for instance, is one of the largest 2D, 3D printing companies in the world. Barbieri is a very small company, 50 people, that is doing mostly color measurement systems. Microtech was an innovator, a pioneer in visual inspection. Again, computer vision, machine learning at the very early stages, about 20 years ago. And all of this is in this little valley where we are in the north of Italy. They came together, and it's actually a great example for open innovation, because none of these companies itself could have built, let's say, an extensive machine learning team, because first of all, A, too small, then of course, there's craziness going on right now in the AI market. Just to approach talent and get talent and poke talent was rather impossible. So they merged and, had a joint effort to found Covision Lab, where I'm the CEO. And one such product is then what I'm going to introduce partially today. The team right now, as I said, just to give a background as well, is mostly computer science, computer graphics, 3D experts, 2D experts, and we make sense out of images, and we hire from the south of Germany, north of Italy, but as well people from Berkeley's labs and Cambridge labs and so on. There is a strong background in our company. I think this is very interesting, perhaps also for you guys. There's strong ties to research, always. So right after this call, actually, I'm traveling to LA to meet Pietro, which has been one of our advisors from the beginning, kind of an illustrious figure in the computer vision machine learning field. What is exciting about our field, and hopefully I can transmit some of this excitement to all of you, is that there's things being published in papers and research that comes with pieces of code that one can just take, implement, test, and build a quick demo out of it. And what you see right now going on, with the Midjourneys, with the DALL-Es, with ChatGPT, I don't know, this is all done, or basically it has been a long time coming, but the application level really was done in the past 1.5, 2 years. And it's very exciting. But also I'm here to tell you about, kind of give a bit of a reality check on what is possible with AI and what is not. Basically, the main takeaway is cool demos are built in 20% of the time and get 80% of the wow effect. But that last 20%, especially in a B2B setting, when working with other companies, that is crucial, right? And so one always has to keep that in mind when developing products. By the way, this should not be just a direct presentation. If you have any questions, curiosities, raise your hand, or that hand that is not holding a sandwich, and I can answer them happily. So just to make one critical distinction, there's two aspects. So whenever we talk about AI, I think we should talk about machine learning. So just a machine that learns from patterns. It's not that it's sensitive to things or has a human aspect to it, although that's sometimes the portrait in the press and so on, especially with ChatGPT, asking them, oh, do I love my wife, or do I love you? Like all these aspects, I mean, it's basically just a reflection of society today, big data models that get fed into it. And of course, at the end of the day, they're very smartly positioned to then give recommendations and so on. But it's basically a machine that learns patterns from large data sets, right? And the higher the quality of these data sets, and that's important for some of the aspects that we are doing, the higher the quality, the better than the recommendations and the output and so on. So there's natural language processing, basically making sense of text and speech. So Siri is a reflection of that, Alexa, ChatGPT, autocomplete of emails, just, everybody's using that these days. So this is already in products out there. Same on the more visual side, so face recognition, self-driving cars, that's a sector that I came from previously, just making sense of the environment. And then, of course, all the generative AI that is possible right now, where you basically have, instead of input as text and letters and words, as you have on the left side, you just have images, right? And as you all know, it just exploded over the last years with not only personal mobile phones and cameras, and just hundreds of thousands of and millions, billions of images being posted on the web and stored on personal devices, but also in an industrial setting. There's so many cameras just being deployed, for instance, in visual inspection in the factories, actually. And we have created one device that is, can be placed in some kind of setting like that as well. one other distinction is just supervised versus unsupervised machine learning. So supervised means you're doing hand-holding for the algorithm. So you're annotating images or annotating pieces of text, basically teaching an algorithm what it should see and identify and so on. Unsupervised is basically there are certain algorithms who learn by themselves. If you have a choice and it's economic to do for certain kind of applications, then you might want to go with supervised right now because it's just more safe and more stable. But unsupervised could be the future where just algorithms learn themselves in a pretty good way. Also, combinations are possible. Maybe 80% of the work be done by an unsupervised AI, and then the last 20% really just try to supervise it. One such example is, you all saw this, right? When logging on to certain websites, you need to annotate images, and basically they just train their, right? It's for you to show that you're human, not a robot, but at the end of the day, you train a machine and give them free data by annotating traffic lights, which then they use for self-driving cars, for instance. Why now? So I get a lot of questions like why we see this curve right now. And it could be, as with everything, could be part a hype, part not, but I think there's really something real to it, not just because lots of smart people have been working on it. We see it in the industry. Like there's real applications that are being built right now. It might not be the solution for everything, so there's clearly an indication. Again, from the press, sometimes AI, it's like a human, it can do everything. But then again, humans are imperfect, they cannot do everything, they're super specialized, and I think we see some of that same reflection also in AI. But the three paradigm shifts that happened over the last 3-4 years, basically, was that, first of all, large amount of data is just available. The technology side of it, let's say, the storing of that data, the processing of the data, I'm speaking about, graphic units, GPUs from NVIDIA, Qualcomm, and so on. We work lots with NVIDIA, for instance, just has, increased dramatically what, we're able to do. For instance, our scanners come with 4 separate workstations to just process, thousands of images in a few seconds, so that 3D model that we are creating of physical items is ready within a certain amount of time, whereas, a few years ago, it might have taken days or even weeks to process all that data. And of course, real-time on the edge is important. If you think of a self-driving car, maybe, or some other applications in factories and also for product development, like they need to work right now in real time. So a lot of this is either being shifted to the cloud, the training itself of the models, or just the data storage. But lots has happened there, right? If you look at Amazon's business, for instance, AWS, it's just such a huge chunk that came up over the past 10 years, basically. And analytics, so lots of research being carried out, both at universities, but the interesting fact here is that actually the companies at the forefront, of course, the Googles, the Apples, and so on, Facebook has a big team as well. They're doing groundbreaking research on the algorithmic side of things, both in text and in images, which then is just made publicly available so that everybody kind of can use it. Of course, then they try to inform and make product decisions themselves, like you see with Microsoft trying to punch Google in the face a bit, but mostly it's available to everybody, so that also companies like ours can benefit from it and take some of the most recent advancements and just implement that in product. And so I think it's just an exciting intersection between innovation at large and big companies, as well as what is happening on at the university level. Some other aspects, and then I just finish that history part of it and why we exist even as a company. But there's been frameworks out there, open source, compute power, and just the amount of data I was mentioning, like ImageNet is one such huge amount of a data set that's widely used. This makes it also easy for developers, let's say, who want to get in the field and just build, I don't know, a mock-up or an application. Even in a big company, right? This is just, right now, has become so easy to do. Even so, with all the generative AI parts, you don't even need to be a developer in most cases. Like I'm not a developer, and I will show some examples, like what I did maybe last night in preparing this presentation, just of a few simple applications that exist out there. This is a screenshot I took from CVPR. This is already, I think, 2020. CVPR is the biggest conference in computer vision machine learning, where we always go to just to inform ourselves and be up to the latest and greatest, where papers actually get published. But you see the sponsors, right? You see what's going on actually in the industry. And I'm sure the companies that you maybe aspire to work at, like, I don't know, the footwear companies or Nikes or Adidas's of this world, and maybe many, many other companies, be sure that they have, like, it's on their roadmap as well. Like, kind of to know what's going on in machine learning AI right now can be also, I think, a competitive advantage, especially if you're young and coming into the industry. At least knowing the basic principles is very important. This is just to show, the attendance rate at some of these research or industry fairs, and also the venture capital investment just in AI has been going up steadily since the past years. Other sectors too, yes, of course. I mean, technology is a big topic for everyone. But really, the share of AI investments has been steadily increasing. So this was the first part, just to get maybe everybody on the same page. I heard also from the professor that there's different backgrounds here in the classroom, and so I just wanted to make sure that this might be nothing new to the engineers or among you. So now maybe we go to the more interesting part for you guys. This is the 3D scanner that we have. So it looks like prototype is not something fancy, but it works 24/7. That's the most important thing. It's basically 2 by 2 meters, could be operated, let's say, in a blacked out room of this size here. And it has been perfected to scan objects of a size of a large boot, maybe a golf bag even. All it does basically is create thousands of images under different lighting conditions, of course, with a structured light projector, like projections that happen onto the item or the shoe for that matter, to then create the 3D model after it. From the bottom, it looks like this. Actually, we got started. This is maybe interesting for some of you that might want to launch a startup as well or want to work in tech, get their own company started. We're based out of the very north of Italy, and we got started with working with some of the local companies, like La Sportiva is one of them, or Gore-Tex was then immediately there to follow, Geox, like kind of these northern Italian, super focused, specialized outdoor footwear companies. And they wanted to create the virtual model of the physical one. Mostly for, to experiment with virtual try-on. So you have a phone app and just try on the sneaker. And they saw value in that in order to increase conversion rates, especially during the pandemic. But also then to have a 3D model that they can use to make more informed, maybe product evolvement decisions or product development decisions. And the third part is then to just replace the normal product photography, right? So 2D product photography that is done in a photo studio likely over the next years will perhaps phase out, and everybody's capturing that 3D and then deriving the 2D from it, as you can put it in any kind of different light setting. Of course, you need to have the technology for that, and I think we developed something that represents now a shift, sort of a disruption in that little niche that we are seeing, right? So we got started with them and really tried to solve their problems. And they were really, really focused on certain aspects of how the 3D looks and feels. The edges, the sole, for instance, it needed to be automatically done. No post-processing would have been ideal. The colors needed to be like the colors in the real world. And so there's a lot of emphasis on just that high-value item, because at the end of the day, I buy a La Sportiva hiking boot for, I don't know, 300 euros. Production cost, I don't know, maybe you guys know better what the production cost is, but it's a high-value item, and they want to display that in the best possible way, also in 3D. And I think that's the driver behind what we do right now. Here you see how it can be operated. So you basically just place an item. I mean, the gloves might be a bit of an exaggeration, but actually we measure it down to a SAP 0.05 millimeter level, and you see the little greasy stains on that shoe as well. This is now the structured light pattern that gets projected onto the shoe in order to get something that's called the geometry of the 3D model, and then we just switch on the different light sources one by one and capture about 12 to 15,000 images that then lead to a 3D model that you see here. Now, keep in mind that this is basically a scan that we did put on Sketchfab, which is just a player on the web. I took a screen video from it and integrated it in a PowerPoint presentation. There's lots of information lost here. The quality certainly, if you would get just the GLB file or the 3D file, would be certainly much higher. But what is interesting here is, I think, the high quality of the item itself, that is done completely in an automated way, and that is basically perfected to be used in various applications. I think that's maybe the interesting aspect as well, looking further on what, what can this be used for? Why are we doing this? And I will show that later on. It's very important in this field, if you think of the transition from the physical to the digital, one key aspect is that it's relightable. What does that mean? So we spend a lot of time, and certainly, thanks to my colleagues and the team back in Italy who have, their background is actually in exactly these fields of computer vision machine learning. I mean, they have PhDs in those fields, and so there's lots of knowledge that we built upon. But basically, we are extracting the light from the model itself so that the model itself then can be put in any kind of virtual setting afterwards. That can be a virtual setting for virtual try-on. It's different if I try it on here or there or outside when it's raining or outside when it's sunny. It needs to show these reflections because the consumer evolved in such a sophisticated way that they want to see all these details. I mean, not for every applications. If you go into maybe gaming and so on, the complete abstraction, let's say, also of the physical, or if you think of, I don't know, fields like maybe NFTs and so on, might be a bit different, but reliable is a key aspect, right? And so this is where we excel as well. And the other critical aspect is then to have, we need to excel also on the geometry level. So now you will see this in a metallic kind of way. It's just a way of representing it, but to see all the little leather cracks, all the materials, the laces, this is very, very important because again, if the geometry is of the highest quality, then again, you will see the reflections in real life as well, right? So if you see all these leather cracks in high detail, that high detail will then reflect the light or the sun or whatever in the virtual application as well, right? And so this is a key aspect too. We of course did some, other shoes as well, like New Balance, some more tricky shoes, like maybe this one here from Under Armour, where you can really see a very difficult sole, a very difficult, transparent, almost translucent material. We of course have limitations as well. That's what I want to say. So the major limitation for us is transparencies. I will show some models afterwards. When you think of the Air Zoom, like the iconic sole, that's something we cannot catch. It's because if you think of a transparent item and we measure the light being reflected from that item, if it basically goes through something that's transparent, it's very, very difficult to actually capture. But this is something that we have been working on as well, and that's actually where the interesting aspect of AI comes into place, because this right now is still this classical computer vision. Like, we excel at it, but it gets interesting now looking further. What I wanted to show you, and I don't know, maybe just asking the group, is there any kind of questions that you already have, or yeah? Yeah, it's a good question. So
image storage was the question.
Okay, yeah. So basically the question was how images are stored, and if this is a big cost or problem for the company. It's certainly a big topic. What we do right now, so we have, let's say, on site when we ship the scanner, we have a caption computer, so all the images that are being captured are stored there, and then we do the reconstruction. That's basically all the images get then compressed into a 3D model. That happens on workstations that are very, very powerful, but at the end of the day, we just keep the item and we delete the rest of it after some time. So there's some management being done here. But of course, if you think this further and the larger scale, perhaps we might shift something into the cloud, or there's several things that are happening there. Luckily, and this was one of the pillars of this paradigm shift, it is available, right? And it's not outrageous costs. Now to train the models, in some other applications, you think of ChatGPT and so on, like large language models, especially with some queries that the customers have, and you might need to wait for 5, 6, 7 seconds, just because it takes so much time to kind of come to a conclusion, especially on very sophisticated, weird kind of queries that you put in. There you need a lot of power. No surprise that somebody like Microsoft, partnered with them, because they have the compute power that so a company like OpenAI needs actually to make some of their calculations in real time. Luckily, we don't have real-time obligations, because if you scan right now, the scan is done in about 20 minutes. You don't need the model in many cases like right away. So to wait 4 or 5 hours is fine. But it's a very, very big topic for sure.
Looking at ways to edit the geometries of the image as well, is that, or maybe like Rhinoceros, or is that at all? Oh, just wondering about if you can edit the geometries of the image itself.
Yeah. So you can do it. Of course, you can edit everything like any aspect of the model that we are directly outputting. In fact, about I would say 20, bit more % of the shoes that we scan, let's say, talk about this use case here, they need some 3D artist working on it, just because we're not there yet in terms of technology. So they modify the geometry, they modify some other aspects. Also for animations and so on, I think this is very important. Somebody can work on the geometry. Part of that, again, I think in the future for some types of applications, let's say you want to modify the geometry to model a different kind of shoe. I think a big exciting field for us is actually, okay, now with all those 3D models that we have, instead of, one thing is text, one thing is 2D, one thing is 3D. If we can train models to then automatically suggest, a 3D of a shoe, that's the next frontier of where we're getting at. So I think you're right on point of, let's say, what is in our head part of the team is thinking of, yeah. And I will show some examples afterwards, yeah. Okay, let me just go on what maybe the most, let's say, the near-term applications, right? So if you end up in companies, hopefully in the future in leading roles, you will always think about, okay, what does the consumer want? Because I can do the best 3D models in the world, but if nobody out there cares and the applications are not ready for it, then it doesn't really matter. So there's lots of companies out there, both the big, let's say, tech companies like Snap or Meta and so on, Farfetch, perhaps others as well, that go into building that application layer, let's say on the augmented reality side of things. Also startups out there that do the same. And we just need to make sure that we create the models that are, real-time, offer real-time possibilities for all these companies. So just to open it up, we see 6 major use cases, and the drivers being number 1 and number 3. So virtually trying on the shoe, but also deriving the 2D from the 3D. Yeah, sorry, there was a question, sorry.
Yeah, there was a question online. How do you manage the proprietary images?
Basically, if we work with a company that they, of course, own the 3D asset, right? So the question was in that direction, like how we deal with the fact that we might not be able to use for our training some models that are proprietary to, I don't know, an Adidas or some other company out there, right? So I guess that was the question. Okay, the 3D model is not owned by us. We need access to these models because we want to continuously perfect our product. So we right now sell the scanner, and then we have a fee per scan, which allows us in return to also push updates all the time because just the cost basis in the company is covered, and these updates are based mostly, especially if we talk about AI type of or AI informed updates, mostly come from the data that we are actually seeing, but we are not owning it. So it's the same. You can think of it as maybe what is happening on like with smartphones, right? So they continuously push updates, also perhaps based on your preferences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that these companies own your data. You still own the data, but they use it. So it's a fine line there, and I think we judge it on a company-to-company basis. But for now, the consensus has been the data, the physical, as well as the virtual one is owned by the customer, but they let us access the data in order to perfect our product. Yeah, there was another question back there.
Here we go. Is there like any goal or eventually capabilities already that you take current 3D products and predict like future models based on like consumer data that you get online or through your customers to eventually just like predict 24, 25, 26 models that would align with the consumers there?
Yeah, it's a super question. Actually, it seems like almost we aligned beforehand. So what's next? So it goes absolutely in that direction. So I don't know about, that would be a next level. I think a very interesting part of your question was consumer insights and, immediate, near-term, predictions, what the models or the shoes or, other products could look like, because actually we scan tools and toys for that matter as well. Surely it's an interesting aspect. Right now, I think in the industry, lots of companies are experimenting with it, trying to find their ways. It's still if you do it, and if you have been using some of these, image generators, like use it, it's like, oh wow, it's incredible. And after that, the realization, oh, we could use this maybe in some process of our company. And then the realization is, okay, then it needs to, however, work all the time to perfection in some cases. But it could be right now, I think, surely already be an interesting aspect to inform certain creative processes, right? So I don't come from that field, so I'm just really thinking outside the box, and maybe I'm saying something completely wrong, but basically if I'm a creative, I need to design a new product, why don't I take as input all the, I don't know, I'm a product manager at, I don't know, let's say La Sportiva hiking boots, and I have history of, 30 shoes that we did already over the past, I don't know, 35, 40 years. Just take that as an input and say, hey, please, can you suggest the same, but for 24, 25 type of consumers, and they maybe come up already with some predictions, which you might discard immediately, or it might look silly or even ugly, or it doesn't make any sense, but some of them might actually make sense, and it could just stimulate your thought process. So I think of those kind of services almost like a companion in this product development or product evolution stages. Yeah.
Another question online. What are the cost and business model you guys currently offer for companies to integrate this scanner and technology?
Good question. So for those of you who want to buy a scanner, I know budgets of students, so that's a bit of an inside joke, but yeah, you would buy it for about $305,000. That comes, of course, with replacement of parts. It's been crazy also what's going on in the, like just sourcing all the components that we need for the scanner. You can calculate it about 2.5, 3 months. You will have the scanner on site if you were to buy it today. We train employees and we do customer service. I think this is a key aspect of it. This business model is not set in stone. It's a very nice one, but it's not set in stone. My goal as kind of more dealing with the business side of the company that we've built is to figure out how can I sell as many scanners as possible in the short period of time. Or even not sell, maybe install them. Because the interesting aspect here is the flexible aspect here. You can think about a range of $85 to about $95, $110 per scan. That's the direct output of the scanner. Of course, the more scanners we have out there, the higher the throughput of the scanner, the better is it for our business. But since there is so much going on in terms of also developments that we can provide, for our products to then the customer, we basically say you buy this machine, you create the 3D, the master file, the virtual product of the physical one, and then you can do all these things from it. Of course, if you look into any one of these applications that I was showing before, there's calculations to be made, right? So if one was to compare the pricing of one scan of us to, I don't know, product photography right now, of course, we would be way beyond what currently are the prices. But if you integrate it with all the other offerings that, could be deduced from it, then it gets interesting. One big learning that I had over the past few days as I was in Portland and speaking with some companies in Seattle and also San Francisco was that this could actually influence also product design decisions. So I think a bit to your question before, it's not something we had on the map. So we were all about, visualization, virtual try-on, 2D from 3D. But to actually inform design processes, like meaning really the working with the physical object, maybe a prototype. You scan it, you have global teams collaborate with it, maybe change the colors, change certain aspects of it. All this is rather easily, let's say, possible. Maybe we automate that part even further. So maybe the colors are already segmented on that type of shoe or on the sole, and then this can inform decision-making in a quicker way. Because as I understood, there's, like for every shoe that is out there or any item that is out there, there's probably lots of items that did not get chosen or picked. And maybe we can help take a bit of that cost down and make that process more efficient. But really, this is just something that I learned recently, that this could be an option. We don't have a product for that yet. We didn't investigate that yet, yeah.
Testing? Okay, so my question was into regards to IP. Like I'm starting to see more independent designers and companies and developers starting to use like AI technology. So like, let's say I create some kind of image with AI technology and I start putting them on shirts and selling them. Do I own the IP or do the AI company owns
Yeah.
the IP?
Surely an interesting question. I guess there's no right or wrong answer right now. I can tell you a bit like what I'm feeling or what my sentiment is. I think AI should be a companion, and AI should not own the IP to any kind of final creation that gets out there. So I think the IP should just stay with ultimately the human creator who puts this product out there. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, of course, I'm talking about this industry right now. There's many, many other use cases out there where this might actually be a debate, right? If you have fully automated and the human basically doesn't do, I don't know, anything anymore, then maybe it has to be discussed. Right now, I think for the applications that we are talking about, the IP should stay with the creator or the creator company, certainly not with the AI. AI should be a tool to help, inform, make processes more efficient, and just more creative, perhaps, yeah. Okay, let's go maybe into some aspects of, what's next, and this is really, for us, the AI frontier. I think two fundamental pillars, if you think of it. So there's existing product, and I think of us right now, but maybe, other companies out there as well, like, hey, how can AI actually improve what I currently have? Versus, I need to make this leap to make something completely new, a new category of a product. So for us, it's more like, transparencies that we cannot handle very well right now, or mirror-like reflections, or for instance, shape completion, right? So shape completion means, let's look at like one key topic for shoes is the laces in 3D, right? So if I know laces from the front, they might look the same from the back, right? So I could learn from all the shoes laces that I've scanned so far, just say, hey, whenever you see a lace, then also on the back side, complete that lace, so it just looks nicer. So this is one aspect that would just enhance our product right now. Maybe let's go just into that first pillar for a second. So if you look at, I don't know, football people here, or let's say American football, then one key aspect of this shoe is, and by the way, they get crazier and crazier, is those reflections, right? So it almost looks like a mirror-like reflection here at the bottom. We've implemented a solution that's kind of halfway. Basically, what we do is we do a top scan, a side scan to get the sole, and another side scan, and we merge them automatically in a few minutes. Here we need to do an additional scan with a so-called sprayed workflow. So you spray the part that is mirror-like or has strong transparencies, and then it gets merged automatically. So you at least get the geometry from the piece, so that, again, to your point, you can then perfect it and get it ready for any kind of visual that you want to go, want to give it out to customers. So this might be, this is exciting from a tech perspective that we already got to this place. And I think this is one of the big learnings of building a small tech company as well. Is, it's exciting, of course, when I look at it, that we are able to do it, but it's nowhere near what could go out to a customer. So here we're working lots of course, with partners, both in Germany and Europe, as well as here in Portland, to really perfect the models for the customers. Also a big aspect, just because I think it matters overall, is logistics, right? We're a tech provider, but the whole logistics, the styling of the object, the scanning of the object, the quality control, right? There needs to be a whole platform where thousands of models just come in, and people actually at the footwear companies or any other companies look at them, like a human is still in the loop, to then say, this model looks great. There might be some rework that needs to be done on some other parts. So here we're looking for partnerships on the go-to-market strategy, right? And I think it's essential for our success at the end of the day, because we really want to be focused on the technology, but to make this work at scale, we need partnerships to be in place. Another example of transparency is for instance, wow, this is a crazy zoom here, but it's basically this iconic sole that you see there. Again, it's exciting for me, but it could never go out like this, so this would need to be reworked, but we at least got the geometry, so even if you need to rework it on that percentage of the shoes or the virtual item, you actually are more efficient there and spend a few minutes or maybe an hour on it, and not like hours and hours or even days, right? But to go back, and maybe this is, I heard from some of the questions, maybe you guys have been following all this trend, what is going on, this should be a 2 up there on the top, but basically all the aspects of new product development, like really vertical product expansion, text to 3D or generative 3D for product design. It's very exciting what is possible there. So just bring up a few examples that I actually did over the past days. Of course, we try to keep up with that as well, because it's really, really important, not only for a big company, for a small company, just know what is happening in the industry, although sometimes it might be not as clear as somebody would like. So this is now another object. So Baxi Text to 3D. It's a company out of San Francisco called Luma, and you just basically type in a classic vending machine, well-lit, high detail. This is what is being produced, right? Just, you know, and it is a 3D model. Now, could this 3D model, you know, be good enough to actually derive a 2D from it, and this could be a product page? Likely not. Like, the level of detail is not there. That's what I'm saying is, maybe, you know, with high quality models that are informing the AI, this could lead to something more exciting in the future. I think kind of the writing is on the wall where this will lead to, but it's really astonishing what happened over the past 5-6 months in this field, at least in our niche where it's all about visualization and 3D and 2D content, is quite remarkable. I mean, you take for instance, you know, dining room table says highly detailed, high quality textures, dining room table. And this is kind of the output there. So all the AI does is look at thousands of images on the web or, you know, some kind of other database and just creates a new model. So this could, I don't know if it's nice enough, but it could inform maybe a product decision on some theme in IKEA. I don't know. But, you know, think of the same also on the sneaker side. For 2Ds, it's exciting. So what I did basically, and you can see them here, and you can try this for yourself. So I go into my WhatsApp. Okay, luckily it's the right page. But basically all I was doing is I downloaded something called the AI Bird. So it's Albert Einstein, but instead of Al, it's AI. So iBird, and you can just, and this is now in Italian because I have an Italian phone, but I just basically asked on a WhatsApp channel to create a certain type of imagery, right? So I said, hey, create an image, futuristic Nike Air Jordan sneaker. You know, you do it yourself. Then it took, I think, 4 or 5 seconds. And this was the outcome, right? So could this be, yeah, oh, it looks nice, right? It's cool. It's even high quality to some extent. Or these ones here. Then if you go into the details, maybe it's like, oh, like what's going on here in the back? Or what's going on here? Like, is this really part of a shoe? Like, is this even a logo? I don't know. But at the end of the day, if somebody was in a creative process, might say, oh, I didn't think of that combination of these two colors. I don't know. And the soul to do it in that kind of way. So this is exciting what is happening here really. Or I asked the same WhatsApp, Albert Einstein, to create a futuristic Adidas Copa Mundial soccer shoe on the football pitch in the rain. So to give even more context where it's set at, and then this is the outcome. So I'm not in those departments making the decisions, but you know, looks pretty neat to me. And then I could go one step further and say, hey, imagine a student designing new futuristic Adidas sneakers, determined, happy, located in Portland. So determined and happy, that's kind of what I guess we all are. So I don't know where this guy is coming from. That looks a bit weird. But you know, this is the outcome, right? It's a computer-generated image. And I think lots of possibilities are opening up there. There's just 2 more here. So it's not a human just in one picture. I really am just plug and play what I saw there basically in the chat. Or to take it one step further and say, hey, imagine a classroom full of students at the University of Oregon, pencil sketch and happy. This is the outcome. So I don't know if I didn't see this. Maybe I saw a bit of this, a mixture of both. But this is basically where we're getting at, and we try to figure out as a company what we can use for ourselves, and maybe some other companies out there try to figure out the same for their niche, so their processes within the company. And we are surely closely monitoring this and trying to figure out how we can use it for our products. And yeah, this is it overall from a introduction of what we do, where we come from, why we're here, and what we think the future holds. Although lots of these things need a lot of work to actually materialize them to become a reality. Yeah, thank you.
Incredibly informative. This was incredibly informative. It was really informative. I want to introduce somebody else up here. So Jimmy, are you here with us? Do I see you there? There you are, heading here. So you guys are both in the digital world. Jimmy, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. as well. And I'm going to throw the first question at you guys about digital. So Jimmy, just kind of make sure everybody knows who you are, and I'll throw the first question.
Sure. So Jimmy Mouton, I was at Nike for about 14 years in different parts of the marketing divisions there. And then for the last year and a half, I've been the SVP of marketing at Nifty's, which is an NFT platform that services a lot of entertainment companies. So Warner Brothers and Sony and a few others. So that's me.
So I have one question. So actually, what I presented, does it make sense? It's interesting.
It does. I mean, whether it's from the 14 years at Nike or kind of what you were talking about, one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of NFT companies is actually the production of whatever the NFT is, and then making something that's really usable. And the buzzword is like interoperable. A lot of NFT and digital artwork right now it's a flat image. There's not much behind it, and so it makes it really, really hard for I guess we can sit down. It makes it really hard for you to use it across different things. So another buzzword that everyone has heard is like the metaverse, which there's a bajillion versions of the metaverse, but it's really hard to take one thing that you own or what have you and actually use that in many different places. If you've got a base to pull from like this that is, I mean, just incredibly high depth and interactive, that gets past that giant hurdle of this is just a flat image. So there was a lot of things as you were talking. I'm like, this is pretty good.
Yeah. And I think maybe just to add to that, because you mentioned metaverse, of course, I think it's one of these buzz terms. But I think what is real right now is really the push into maybe augmented reality. Now everybody's speaking about headsets that will be released and are not yet released and so on. But I think what we are seeing right now in the industry is actually real traction from the companies who are creating the products actually, which I think is a seismic shift towards, from the physical to the digital, maybe back again. And a lot of the problems were or came from the fact that, you could do it with high effort, high costs, with lots of 3D artists on hero products, of course. But to actually make that into production, to do it on every shoe all the time or every item, this is what we have been focusing on, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I mean, a personal experience from Nifty's. We did a program with Warner Brothers on their Matrix franchise. So the movie was not great, but they brought that franchise back, and a movie like that, we were like, all right, let's go with the highest definition stuff we can, which was the Unreal Engine, which is basically what you use to create video games. Well, there's generating it for the first time and sort of running a certain batch, but then making that into actual files, it's incredibly manual. So what you're talking about of digital into either very applicable and interactive, that's a big leap, but even further of a leap of this is a digital thing and we want to bring it into a physical product, it's a big jump, and I can see the bridge is being built.
I think interoperability, what you're mentioning, is key as well. I think if you look at certain departments that maybe for many years were not even kind of talking together, now they need to, because just physical, digital are merging, and then they need to be interoperable on many different devices, use cases, and so on. And that's sort of an ideal case that everybody tries to create. But it's super curious to know what your experience was.
Well, one of my questions for you was the slide you put up where it was like, hey, here's all the possible use cases. Where do you guys start when you talk to an Adidas or what have you? Because those are all different divisions, right? Like the e-com group that cares about a 3D like a virtual try-on is a completely different group than, I guarantee, than the footwear group who's actually designing 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and it's a different group than maybe it's marketing that's working on like the digital twins and what we could do with those. Where do you guys start?
So, I mean, right now I start literally with anybody in the company. So the first intern who is
Whoever
out there
picks up
going
the
to
call.
No, because we just slipped into this industry recently. Of course, we know our ways as well and have some good contacts. Usually, the primary place that we ideally start is just content creation, like 2D content creation, because those are the ones that actually did it already for the company at scale, whether it's internal or external. So some companies have it internally, some companies have it externally. And that's likely where also 3D production at scale will happen. So that for us is sort of the focus. But in order to see where this could go, we talked to the product developers, we talked to the marketing departments. Some companies have people just dealing with Web3, NFTs and so on. This morning I had a call as well. So interesting to see where this is going on. But if I had to shoot and only one bullet, it would be content creation teams.
Content create. I mean, that is I don't know how many of these guys are interested in more the marketing side. That is, from my previous life and even inside of the NFT world, content creation is just such a massive lift, right? Creating, the shoot that, creating the shoot that you would have a boot in this type of weather on this type of pitch, it's literally like several $100,000s to recreate that shot. And just seeing that now, I'm like, well, that's gonna bring down the budget. That's gonna bring down what you have to spend on that content creation side to. It's gonna be some people's worst nightmare,
yeah,
like production companies, and then it's also gonna be the best friend of content creation inside of companies.
I think there's some companies out there, even just content creation studios, not just the major brands that have been seen this kind of common, have been embracing it and got their hands dirty early. Those are right now very well positioned to take a big chunk of the market as well, maybe from others, right?
Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any questions from our online audience or our audience here? All right, Obi, let me get the mic over there.
Hi, thank you for coming and speaking to us today. I just wanted to ask you, I know you had mentioned that it's still like kind of very early on in adding the design to where this could possibly reach out to, but in your personal opinion, like how do you see it going into that? Like, is it creating 3D component trees and exploded views and then being able to manipulate that later on in post-processing, or just like how do you see it kind of flowing into the workflow? Is it just still open?
Yeah, I might not actually be the best person to answer that question. I appreciate it, and that's something we need to figure out as a team, because again, I heard it so much over the last days. But I'm not from that industry. I don't know the process, so I cannot make any call there. Maybe you know better. I don't know.
I mean, again, I was in marketing. I could be somewhat dangerous on like the actual development process. I was thinking about this as you were showing stuff. I would guess that some of the companies, the brands that are working on this stuff, they want to be there. But I would also guess that a lot of the actual manufacturing and factories are like that's light years away for them to be able to take, hey, this type of component, break it down, and even process it and turn it into a real thing. So I would guess that like the companies are going to have a high appetite pretty quickly of like, let's do this. But to his point earlier, it probably is more on the content and showing it and kind of romancing what's inside of it versus this is now a completely new airbag that the computer invented and we're able to make it here in this manufacturing space. So I would, that's my guess. Also not an expert. So.
Yeah, and we appreciate the expertise that we've had here today. This has been fantastic. Just on behalf of the University of Oregon and Sports Product Management here in Portland, Oregon, we can't thank the two of you enough for today. This is fantastic. Thank you for coming out. Yeah. Let you go to class, so we'll let you go to class. And if you have any questions, I'm sure those guys will take a few on your way through. So thank you.